All right, as you guys know, my favorite movie of all time is Star Wars. Not only because it's an amazing story of good versus evil, or the visual effects, but the immersiveness of it with the sound. From John Williams' amazing score to the sound of a lightsaber or Darth Vader's breathing or a blaster being fired. And that way our actors aren't having to sit there and go pew pew with their fingers. That would have just been horrible. So what we're going to do today is we're going to learn about sound design in a very special Film Nation by taking a road trip to a studio. Guys, this is another episode of Film Nation, this time sound design on location. All right, guys, welcome back to another class. This time we are on location here at Bare Knuckle Creative in Atlanta, Georgia, with sound designer Chris Basta. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
Thank you for allowing us to join you today.
No, I'm glad you came down. There I am.
So it was a short drive just to Atlanta, and so we're going to learn about sound design. Chris, sound design is the final element in making a film. It includes the adding of sound effects, such as blasters, mixing, dialogue, adding the score. Why is this final stage of filmmaking one of the most important stages in creating an immersive film experience?
Well, I think you used the correct word. Immersive it's all about that now. It used to be when audio was first recorded, it was in mono. And then the mono became stereo, and it kept getting bigger and bigger. Now we walk into a theater that has over 50 speakers in it. So at the end of the process of the film, when we start doing sound, you're talking about creating a total submersive environment, which is built from the ground up and created in rings. So you have the low end that's got the big boomy stuff that gives you the LFE. That gives you the big explosions, and you want to feel that. You want to feel that as a if you're in a war movie, watching a war movie, you want to feel the explosions right next to you, and that's created through the LFE, and then you go up to the next level, and you've got your surround speakers, and what you would do with that is when you create a surround environment, we don't hear stuff just here. Our ears hear what's behind us, what's above us, what's going on. So as a sound designer and even as a mixer, you can play with those environments and create a so submersive that you feel like you're sitting next to a waterfall with a lion roaring over here.
Right. It's
in the room. And then the top speakers, of course, are your, in our room, they're the 4 channels up top because we have a 714 room. But those are, before we had all the speakers, a jet flying overhead would be this, would come through the speakers on the right or left. It sounds totally different when you move those up top and you create a sound that actually now is passing over your head, because that's the way we're used to hearing it. When we're outside, when a jet passes over, we don't hear mostly here, it's coming from up here. So one, that's the immersive aspect of the audio. The second thing is, and we talked about this before, audio, you tell stories with audio.
Yeah.
And without it, you can look at a shot of someone walking across the street, and if their footsteps sound like they're in water or they sound off, or we recognize it, we hear it, but the scene might be important coming up to the next scene, that concept of sounding more wet when they walk, even though it's not, is important to the next scene. So we're creating audio to tell a story moving into the storyline next to it. So all of these aspects put together, it's really immersive, and it tells a story. It helps the picture tell the story.
Yeah, for example, John Williams' score in Jaws. If that wasn't there and you just had a camera moving through blue water, it's not scary.
Right.
But you had that F sharp and that continuous pattern. It's a zill of a monster coming at you.
Right.
It intensifies it.
Yeah.
Now, sound design is often the art that creates the largest number of lies in a film. And what I mean by saying lies is, for example, a gunshot, a lot of times you can't just record a gunshot. So I know some artists have thrown a grape at a brick wall, recorded that grape exploding against the brick, and manipulated the sound and speed, and it sounds like a gunshot. Frying bacon in a skillet sounds a lot like rain.
Right.
The sound of breaking a bone, well, you're not going to actually have your actor break a bone. I mean, I know we have a lot of actors that really get themselves into it, but they're not going to break their bone, but it's breaking celery. What is the science in tricking the brain with sound design?
Well, first of all, I think video does it much more than audio.
Okay.
Because we could have an interview today and change the video to where we're sitting in the middle of the street doing it.
Right.
We're sitting on the green screen. So the video aspect of it, we can teach our eyes to look at it differently through different programs of video changing. And it's the same thing with audio. We obviously, you're right, we can't break an arm to create that. But there have been videos that a leg being broken does sound like celery being broken. And by the way, most of the horror stuff that you see in horror films are created with vegetables and fruit. A great head being squashed is a melon just being crushed together like that. I mean, there's so much you can do with it. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't know if we teach ourselves to lie about it, or we just say, here's what it sounds like if a horse gallops by. Now we want the horse to be bigger. He's a black stallion. He's a death horse. We need him to be huge.
Right.
So we take the sound that's already given to us and say, how do we enhance it and create it to where we have the feel of that horse being ominous, but yet it doesn't jump out to the audience as, oh my God, those footsteps are way over the top. So, and that's another thing about sound design, is that we create an environment, and we'll use, we'll go out and record something and say, hey, you know what, that doesn't sound like a car skid, but it does sound like someone falling down the road and scraping their knee. I mean, it's that we can put in a scene, but the scene needs to be, one, believable, and two, 9 times out of 10, the sound that you're designing is not really supposed to be noticed or saying, oh my God, look. It's supposed to be all inclusive in that scene that says, oh yeah, I can feel it now. I'm in the scene. You know, that when that leg breaks, I can feel the bone crunch. So you're right, it's lies. It's lies.
And then probably one of the greatest compliments for a sound designer is to actually not notice your work, because because it should seem so normal that we just take it for granted as an audience member.
Right.
Now, when a director is filming a scene, for example, though, something that will be key for sound design is, like, let's say, as an actor, if I was and my phone is supposed to ring, it's not actually ringing on the set, right?
Correct.
But as an actor, so I'm picking it up. It's in the work that you're doing post. You're adding that sound of the phone ringing and stuff. How much, when we watch a movie, is actually effects that you're adding in afterwards?
Really depends on the mics that were used on set.
Okay.
We do films that have really just one shotgun mic, and you can't get a lot. We have other films that we do that have everyone's on a lav, and then you have 2 booms. So there's a lot to pull from. And you actually have people that are on set sometimes that'll do atmosphere stuff over the set before they actually start recording any dialogue. They'll call 1 minute of atmo. So everyone's silent for at least a minute, so now we've got that background atmosphere, the actual location to work with as a base to say, here's what it really sounds like, and we can also blend it into the clean dialogue.
Okay.
So once we get that happening, then we'll put the clean dialogue, whoever's cleaning the dialogue will make the dialogue pristine. But for instance, if I reach over and put this pencil down, and I'm not talking over it, when the dialogue cleaner is going through he also pulls down those things we call it a PFX tracks, production FX. So we can use that pencil being dropped in the movie, but it depends on where the mic was, how close the director wants it to be. It's all about proximity. I would say probably 80% of what we use in the dialogue track will go in the movie, and that's our base, and then we might enhance it after that. Okay. And what's great about it is the sound design or the sound effect already has the room ambience that's common with the dialogue track. and the world tone. So, when you're doing sound design, you have to say you're going to put that effect in there, but it has to blend with the entire scene. It can't have a different ambient track that just. You ever watch those movies, and sometimes the dialogue track is as well. There's been something I noticed recently because when COVID set in, we started pumping out as much to get on VOD as much as possible.
Right.
So the industry was like, no, we need more. Let's get this production done. But when someone's talking and you hear this on their lines, that's the production that was recorded on set, and they didn't clean the dialogue, or they couldn't clean it enough. The director said, no, that I want the dialogue just fine right there. It's the same thing with the sound effects. If you can't get that out and you watch a movie, you can hear the noise floor open up when the dialogue's spoken and drop out. Same thing with the sound designs there. You're going to see it open up and close out. Okay. So we just try to use fades and EQ to eliminate that. But I would say 80%.
Okay.
Will probably go in the movie.
And an example of one of the things you're doing with cleaning up dialogue, which I just learned kind of thing, is if your actor has a little bit of a clicky or has a deep breath in the middle of his conversation or her conversation, a swallow, you can clean that out. We can take the mouth click out. We can also we can actually cut the breaths out if we can get in between them if the words are not right on top of each other. But if your actor's on camera and the shot's close to his face like this, you don't want to cut the breath out because it'll be very prevalent when he inhales that there's nothing there because it's a close-up. Right. We can remove dog barks. I had to do that for a couple spots where they recorded a Marine and they wanted to use him, but his dog was barking in the back of the house the entire time, and I had to go in and remove the dog while he was talking. Okay. But we can do a lot with it. There's a lot of really good programs out there that you can take pretty bad recorded audio on location and make it sound really good. Okay. And if you can't do that, you go to ADR, and the actors just come in and redo the entire scene in a studio. All right. And I want to come back to ADR here in a minute as well as some other things. With doing design, you are covering all sorts of aspects of a film, from sound effects, cleanup, dialogue, adding the score. All of these are each one of them's part of telling a story. To add a more human feel to it, more realistic feel for it. How do you decide, though, the balance of I need to add a little more oomph in the score here, or maybe take a little bit out of a dialogue here? Christopher Nolan, for example, has recently been criticized for the hard to hear on some of the dialogue because of all the bass that's being chimed in. How does a sound designer decide what's the levels that need to be done? The sound designer... Or does that sound mixing? Well, that would be part of the mixing, but the sound designer needs to be part of the whole process, because when I sit down to sound design a scene, and the director comes to me and says, look, I need these I need to feel these explosions. I need to feel the dirt, the debris falling on me when this is done. Right. I want the boom, which is great, but I really need the sand and debris falling on you. I got to feel all that. Right. So if we know that's going in with the sound design when we go into any scene, we'll get you where you need to be. Now, as far as too much of bass and too much of that's a re-recording mixer that's sitting on the soundstage saying, the director's behind him saying, "This, I love it, but the bass on the explosions it's killing me. I can't hear the guy dying in the back of the thing. I need to hear him screaming. Right. I want more death, less explosions." So that's a mix issue on the soundstage at that point. And our what we do is we try to bring a very good mix to the soundstage before they even get there. So that way we're close to what we think it should be, and then they go from there. Obviously, we're more of the talent and the button pushers. They make the call on what goes in the movie, but we'll get it to where we think that's where we both want to be. But 9 times out of 10, the director will be like, "No, hate it, love it, hate it, get rid of that, keeping that," and then we move on. Okay, all right. Now, just a moment ago, you just talked about doing ADR, but the sound is a team, and it's a rather expensive team. On smaller projects, it might be just a couple people. On bigger projects, it's a much more expansive. ADR is one of them, but can you go through just sort of when the guys are looking through the credits and they see this sound team, just what are some of the positions that they should be really familiar with, and what do these people do on their roles?
Okay. Well, there's a team that's obviously on set, location. Okay. So you've got location record. In that team, you're going to have a rig and you're going to have a line mixer. And his job is to take all the mics that you have on set and run it into one place and make sure all the mics are, the levels are good. He's wearing the headphones. And majority of the time on a movie, maybe you might have 8-10 microphones open at one time. Mm-hmm. We call it a line mix because he blends all those mics together. So when they start doing post-production on it, they have decent audio to work with. And then all of those split outs, you'll have the line mix the editor can use. Then you'll have all of the separate mic tracks, then go to the dialogue guy that's going to be clean. Okay, so that's the first guy. Then you've got the boom guys that actually hold the mic. To me, that's one of the most important. You can say you're a boom operator, but it's an art, and they know how to get really good sound, and they know how to move with the scene. They stay out of the shot. They can get the best stuff. And you also have someone that deals with the actual care of the microphones. Okay. Someone is making sure that person has the right lav. This boom goes here. That person. So you got an equipment guy that goes with all that. Okay. All right. Once that audio is wrapped up in concept, and they also, again, if possible, they will get you your world tone for post production. Okay. Now once it switches over to post production, those guys are done. The team will start with when we do a movie, we'll get a majority of the time it's not final cut. We'll get a rough cut of it. Okay. And then we will send the AFF, the files that we get from the editor, video editor, to a dialogue editor, which then cleans it.
Taking out the clicks.
Just getting as clean as it can be. Okay. Then the Foley artist will start after that, because once the dialogue's clean, remember we got that PFX track. So if we pull that PFX track down, and our Foley artist knows, like, oh, this is what he's already working with. We already have a lot of, 70% of the movie on location stuff. I can enhance that and work with that. Okay. They can also go to the dialogue tracks, and maybe they recorded someone walking down the street and talking, right? Well, the footsteps are obviously in the lavs and the booms. We can pull them out mostly, but we can't totally pull them out. Okay. Going down to deliverable stages, we're going to send these movies out, and they're going to be overdubbed in different languages. They're dubbing. But the footsteps still have to be there. Okay. Okay? So if the Foley artist has a footstep to work with, 2 or 3 that are clean, that's a good base to start the Foley work. And basically a Foley artist creates anything that the human body's doing, moving. Throwing, sitting, stepping out of a chair, getting out of a chair, falling down. That's a Foley artist.
Walking through snow.
Yeah, Foley artist. Okay. Then you also have hard effects, which are explosions, car driving by. Sometimes they'll do the surrounded atmosphere. They'll do the world tone. Okay. But I personally like to have them separate. So I have one guy saying, "This is the world that we live in on all these different scenes. You focus on." Getting the explosions right and getting the dog barking right and getting all that in there. Okay. And then once those 3 are done, then we basically slide down to the re-recording mixer, and he basically ingests everything and puts it into one mix session. If I'm doing the sound design, I'll actually pre-mix for our lead mixer, and then so I'll sit in the room a couple days and get it where all of my ideas are in one place. Okay. And then the re-recording mixer will come in and actually put his ideas on it, and then sit down with the producer director and mix the movie out and get deliverables out. So, and you've even got audio people that just work on deliverables. Once the movie's done, their job is to take all these deliverables, run them out, mix them, and make sure they get to where they're going. Okay. So it's not a huge team, but when I tell you, we work on big features. Right. There are 2 or 3 Foley artists. There are 2 or 3 dialogue people. There are music. Oh, you talk about the music editors. Right. There's just music to be edited, and then there's composers. Someone's going to compose and send me stems, which is a master mix either in 5 or stereo. I can use that master mix in my mix. I can go ahead and put it in the mix. But then the director comes in and says, "Yeah, I love that. I love what he did, but I need that one. I need the high string part. I need it louder.
Okay.
Then you got to pull in the stems, and all of a sudden you're remixing their music, and you're pulling up just that one violin part up a little bit. So it's a pretty big team.
If one of my guys who's in class right now is sitting and watching this, and like he's into sound, he's into music, things of that, and he might be interested in going into this kind of field, what would he need to know to prepare to get himself to in this kind of position?
Because there's so many different aspects of this and so many levels of it.
Okay.
And we're just talking about film.
Right.
There's also commercials that are done the same way. People they don't work on films, but they're really good commercial audio people.
Mm-hmm.
The process is basically the same. It's just shorter format. But first thing I would say is know all the layers that there is audio, period. I mean, there's online, people might love getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning when it's snowing to record horses galloping around.
Mm-hmm.
And that's their jam. They want to do that. I love recording real stuff everywhere, and I have a rig to do it. I got my submersive Atmos stuff ready to go. I'm traveling all over the place, and then you have somebody that just says, you know what, I just want to mix. I don't care about the sound design. I like to just take all these different sounds and ideas and mix it to where I want to feel it. Mm-hmm. What feels good to me. So first of all, know all the aspects of the whole range of what audio is available to do.
Okay.
And each one of them are pretty specialized. The second thing I would say is trade school is pretty important.
Okay.
It is only because you need to learn a good DAW system. They're going to teach you concepts of how to record things, the concept of actually what is sound. You know,
right.
it's a motion of moving. It's energy transferred through air. That's basically what it is. So they're going to teach how do you get this energy from my voice to transfer the best to a digital component. Mm-hmm. Routing is really important. Audio signal routing is one of the toughest. In old school, we would grab a wire and actually plug it in. Now we do that in a box. It's the same thing. You're just connecting the wires inside of it. So
okay.
Trade school is really important. The second thing, and the last thing I would say is, try to get in an area where whatever you're trying to do is available. When I left school, a lot of my friends went to the bigger cities.
Right.
And they moved equipment around for 2 years and never sat in the chair. And I was lucky enough to go to a town one. I grew up in Atlanta. I went to school in Illinois and then came back after I graduated. But to be available and to be at the right spot when the ad business just boomed in Atlanta, and I had lots of job offers, and I started working in the studio instantly. And that's old school with tape and everything. So.
Right.
But be in the area that is good, because a lot of my friends, and I've seen this in the past, are so excited, and even other schools I've talked to about it, they're so excited, and they get through school and they'll go to somewhere where there's really not a lot available. I mean, it is a very close niched market.
Okay.
But just I should put it this way: be able to travel where the work is.
And Georgia is done a really good job of becoming one of the states that has attracted film and television, and there is a lot of
there's tons of work here, and there are more studios being opened. There's a lot of LA companies coming out, and there's definitely jobs available to be had if you can get after them.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually see how this works, and we're going to start playing around with some sound. So, guys, this is going to be cool. An actual behind-the-scenes sequence with Chris here.
Yeah. And this man is going to be put on mic, so you got to see this.
Acting debut. Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, so what we have here is a video that I pulled down a few years back. It's from a program called Blender, and it's a 3D animation, open format. And so for us to practice sound design or to work on techniques and new programs, we pull this into our system. And what we're going to do now is walk through how we would look at a scene and sound design it and put it all together and put all the sounds up to mixing. We won't get into mixing, but we'll get to that. So what would happen in a movie, real movie, it was delivered, I would have the video, the final cut of the video, and an AFF that I would pull in that basically is, it looks like this, a session like this, but it's the audio tracks that the video person put in to sell the concept of the movie or the spot. So we've got basic audio to work with, but with this one, we didn't have that. So what we'll do is we're going to play through it, not all the way through it because it's a longer piece, but we're going to play through it, and I'm going to talk like the director would have been talking. All right, opening shot here, Chris. I see the birds. I need lots of insects. I need to have, we're outdoors. There's a lot of nature. All the stuff's overgrown. I need to feel that we're outside. This chest, safe that comes up, I need to feel the weight of it when he shoves it off, and I need to hear the concrete down, boom. I really need to hear this guy kick this thing open. I want to hear what's in it when it comes out. That stuff needs to fall. We need the Foley of him moving around, kneeling. I need a line here when he says, when he looks at that, something needs to be said there, like he was looking for it, and he's trying to get this thing to work. I want to hear. I need a line there too, and we also need a line of this recognition of that's not right. Something happened. I need something there. That's what you're running from. That needs to be big and ominous. We don't know what it is yet, but it's got to be. It's got to be big and ominous. We want to feel that that thing is dangerous to him. Obviously, it's going after him. So that's what I would get. We would talk through each scene. I would make notes. We would go back and forth. What's the scene going to be? What are you hearing? And then we would start the process after that. And that's where you up, my friend.
Okay.
So we get Mr. Chad on mic, and we're going to give him to do the lines, the countdown. So give us set that up.
Finally. All right, come on. Come on. That's it. Let's go. No, oh, no, that can't be. It's not right.
Yeah, let's keep those right now. Hang on.
Okay. The next Clancy Brown, you know, with this amazing voice that I got here. Nothing says action hero like this. This can't be. This can't be, no.
So, very quickly, we were talking about cleaning dialogue. I'm going to send this over to a program called RX. Or up to RX7. It is basically a cleaning. What we're actually seeing here is a representation of audio.
Okay.
A visual representation. These are obviously your spoken words.
The brighter gold.
The brighter gold are obviously your words, and we can see the beeps. You can actually physically see the beeps that was recorded through your headphones on microphone.
Okay.
And I can visually go in and clean them, but we'll just do, again, this will do a quick pass. There's also, because the door was open, there's hum in here that we can get, but very quickly, this is how we would clean this. I'm going to analyze the room by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to want my spectral denoiser. Boom. And this is just a rough pass, but this actually is learning the room. It actually has learned the tone of the room. You can see the white noise up here. That's the high end of the room. And then there's a low tone that was going on through it because we had the door open. If the door was closed, it would have been a lot quieter. And then what we're going to do is it learns it, and then it actually just removes all of the background noise throughout of it all, and you can see it go away. So all of that. So now our background noise is a lot lower, and let's go one more time with it. And this is what they do like you record a street scene with actors standing on the street,
right,
and you can hear the rumble or you can hear something like that. Our job is to clean the dialogue and minimize that so much that when it goes to mix stage, the new environment and the surround stuff can be used, and the dialogue doesn't have the. What we're trying to do is eliminate that and get it as clean as possible.
So on like a street scene, like, you know, a lot of times films will have closed off couple blocks, like a 2 or 3 block, but you're still going to hear that ambient vehicle noise from several blocks down, especially if you're in a major urban area, the honking, the semi-trucks.
Right.
And you're able to go in and...
We can pull almost all of it out, and then stuff we can't get out, that's when the ADR comes up and says we will do the lines. So we'll leave the lines in there for right now. Let's jump over to sound design. In sound design, there's certain concepts of a spatial environment, and like I said earlier, I like to work all the environments and feel like if the scene changes, is it nighttime? Is there a dog in the background? Is it daytime? But are we close to the city, or is it rural? What are the ambience? Are the cicadas? Are they just birds?
Right.
So we would start with that. So. The director said he wanted to open this with insects. All right, so the scene opens, and this is what he wanted. He wanted so now we address just the atmosphere of the insects. All right, I'm going to jump up here because we're going to talk about I'm doing this kind of left to right, if you will.
Okay.
We have the environment set. We have the bugs. They loved them. It's big. It's heavy. Part of the Foley is this guy now walks up. All of his footsteps need to be addressed. So now his lines. We're going to blend his lines into the atmosphere.
Finally.
Now, here's the sound design for the ship. The ship has to be big. And I'm just quickly going through the sound. Let's say the director talked to us. Now we're putting all the sound design in. All right.
Okay.
So it's all put together. Let's talk about music now. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Jump right into it. We've got the scene sounding pretty good in a rough state with all the sounds that we have for the sound design already in there. Let's jump over down to the score aspect of it. I want to mute this. Music to me, that's the most powerful audio tool we have to convey emotions and scenes.
Michael Myers becomes a lot scarier with John Carpenter's score.
Yeah, it does. So for this concept, when we first looked at it, we want the flying object more to be ominous when we see it. So as a composer, I'm like, we need the big horns when we finally see this thing because he's ominous. We don't know what he is. We want him to be ominous. Then it kind of creates a tone for him, and you listen to the score that we go into you running, and it comes back to him, and then we have that the evil or ominous tone come back in the music. So the music's telling a story without us really even thinking about it.
Right.
You know, and I'll just play a little bit of that so you can kind of see how it goes back and forth. And this music is all composed inside Pro Tools with MIDI. So
you just compose this
So
score.
we have, I don't know if you guys can see, but we have a full keyboard that always sits in front of us in the studio so we can compose or do sound design with the keyboard as well.
Okay.
So this is, and MIDI is a music instrument digital interface. So basically it doesn't record the actual sounds, it records MIDI information, which are zeros and ones. And then when you play it back, it sends that information back into the sound unit or the app and plays it back for you. So you're not manipulating the sound, you're actually manipulating the digital information to change more sounds on. Stop it there. So again, we see the ship with the horns there,
right.
And then we come back to the ship when it actually gears up to go after him. That theme comes back, and also through this, there's 4 or 5 places where it goes back to the ship, and so it tells the story of the two talking in a chase kind of way.
Right.
So,
So that bass, that powerful whom,
right.
those horns, that helps generate our anxiety as a audience because we feel it in our chest when that is being powered through a cinema.
Right. So we get the score we wanted. In the real world, the director would come in and say, I like that cut. This music needs to change. Let's remix this. And then all of this, not the MIDI information, but it would be mixed out in whatever format is going into the movie. 9 times out of 10, they'll just send out a stereo mix, and we mix it up to 5/1 and spread it out. Or if I'm doing the music and I have a room that's 5/1 or 7/1, I'll mix in that and then send them that to down mix in the stereo.
Okay.
So we would then take this and send it to the recording, the mix stage, and then they would start mixing this in, all of this together. So when you combine all this together, which would be the last little thing we'll do here on this, is we've actually just seen very quickly, we start with the dialogue, we clean the dialogue, we pull out the PFX, and it goes to the Foley artists and the hard effects, and they know what they're going to work with. Then we pull in the music, and the music is now telling a story of what's going on, so then we put them all together.
Finally. All right, come on. Come on. That's it. This can't be. This can't be, no. Chris, this has been great. We now have seen how it really works behind the scenes. We got one more subject to do, though. That's 5 quick questions. All right, Chris, that's our final stage of this. Thank you again for everything you've done for us. But this is 5 quick questions, so
Okay.
it's the format is just quick answers to these rapid-fire questions.
Okay.
You ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right.
Put me in, Coach.
Very good. All right. Question number 1. The Oscars, there's 2 categories for sound mixing and sound design. Real quickly, for our Oscar picks and understanding pools, what's the quick difference between the 2?
The 2 are mixing and sound design.
Right.
Sound design is basically Ford versus Ferrari. Those guys won an award for
Right.
the actual sound design.
Zoom.
They had mini mics on a lot of cars and actually recorded them on location to get the sound. So they
Okay.
created the sound, and that would be a sound design of the vehicles, which won an award.
Okay.
The mixing is actually taking the full score of what we built today and creating the entire package. That includes the music, the Foley. That would be the mixing. So those are two differences.
Very good. Now you guys know what to do on your next Oscar picks pools. Question number 2. Silence sometimes speaks the loudest. When?
I would have to say, really in scenes that if you want isolation, you want loneness, you want to be that person that you don't know what's going on. Killing a sound, basically, or making something silent, not only gives you that feeling, but gives you somewhere to go. And sometimes you need that rest in a film to go to the next spot, which might be an abrupt hit or silence. And horror films are great for this. It'll come down really slow, and all of a sudden you get boom, there's your silence and there's your rest. So again, it just evokes some emotion. If you have silence and stillness, evokes some kind of emotion that you might want to have in the scene.
Okay. Question 3, speaking of horror and things of that sort, you've actually worked on horror shows such as Creepshows. You've been on old medieval fights with kings and knights. You've done World War II. You've done Hallmark shows even, and commercials. Is there a specific genre that you really, really enjoy working on the sound with the most?
Yes, I like, because I'm a sound designer, obviously. I love the war movies.
Okay.
I love the horror movies because those two lean on putting you in the battle, putting you in the scene. You want to hear the axe going through the skull. I mean, those are the most fun to work on. Those two.
All right. Question 4, keeping up with that. What do you think for my students would be the perfect film to watch to get a great understanding of sound design?
Oh, a minute for that one. Sound design.
It's a stumper here.
It is, because you want to pick one that covers everything from they created the sound for this,
Right.
and then you have some that they recorded the sound on location for this.
Right.
You know what? I'm going to go with your Star Wars, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
If you look back at the time that it was built and done, was it 80?
77 was the first.
Was the very first one. 77.
Right.
The lasers were created by taking metal and striking the metal wires that hold up telephone poles.
Right.
And I still to this day, if I walk by one and I have something, I hit it just to hear they did it. I would say look at that, knowing that the time it was created,
Right.
and the sounds that came up, and to me that was it when I was a kid. As you went to the theater, and you're like, not only does it, we've never seen anything like it, we've never heard anything like it.
Right.
So that'd be a good place to start. But you have to understand where the movie originated. Only in the 70s, late 70s, to understand it.
But I mean, it's a film that even with being in the 70s, those sounds still play today.
They still do, and they still use the sounds today, just modified in the new Star Wars.
Lightsaber is one of the coolest sounds of all time.
I know. So I would have to go with your Star Wars.
All right. 5th and final question. Okay. Now that you know what we're doing and you've actually been a part of this class, is there someone that you think would be a great addition to continue our education with it?
I have thought of 2 or 3 people, and the lines are out, and I will have to get back to you on that.
All right.
Yeah. If we can pull this together, it would be pretty awesome. We'll see what happens.
Thanks, Chris.
All right.
Chris Basta, thank you for joining our class today. Thank you for letting us make the road trip and actually have a very cool learning experience here. We appreciate the work you do.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And again, anything to let the students see what we do, to get a little insight of what's going on, so they can be more prepared to say, I want to go after this concept of object.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, quite welcome.
All right, thanks, Chris. Thank you so much for allowing us to be a part of this experience. And also a very special thank you to Mr. Klein, who went along with me, and he was in charge of all the filming and doing the hard work of the editing of this very special episode. Guys, I hope you learned a little bit about sound design, and you also enjoyed the little road trip experience. And as always, Remain awesome. Be nice. Stay safe. Okay. Move along. Move along.